Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Cyrus Webb Presents and Conversations Live. I'm your host. Whether you're joining us through the platform Cyrus Webb Presents online or through the radio dial at Max WYED 94.1 FM and WYEDonline.com, we're glad you all could be with us. Going to connect with our friends over on Instagram to bring them into our conversation, and then our friends over on Amazon. And I'll introduce today's guest for you guys. If you guys have any questions or comments on the social media side, make sure you guys put those in the chat. And we're live now on Amazon Live for Cyrus Webb Presents and Conversations Live. I'm excited to welcome author Kirk Ward Robinson to our broadcast today. We're going to talk to him not only about his love of storytelling, but for you guys joining us on the Amazon side, you all can see his latest book in our series that we're talking about today. It's called Ridley Speaks. We're going to talk to Kirk not only about his love of storytelling, but what it's been like for him to see the response to his various books. If you guys are new to us, welcome. Make sure you guys do hit that follow button if you guys are on the Amazon side. Exceptional Talk with Dr. Clark. I see you over there on Instagram. Dr. Norma, hello to you. Tracy O'Neill Horton, I see you over there on Instagram as well. But Kirk, welcome to the broadcast. Glad to have you with us.
Thank you for having me.
Look, the pleasure is definitely on mine. A lot for us to talk about, including I mentioned the new book, Ridley Speaks, but even outside of this book, readers have gotten to know you for other books, Kirk. What has it been like for you to share your love of storytelling with others?
Well, it's been a long journey, but I'm each of the books I've written, I've been quite proud of. I'm gaining a little bit more of a following these past few years, especially since I started the Speak saga. Mm-hmm. But some of my earlier novels still do well. I did one a little over 10 years ago called The Appellation. That was 750 pages. I called it My Gone with the Wind. And the character in that book hikes the Appalachian Trail, and I promoted it by on one of my hikes, on hike 2, I planted books in the shelters on the trail and developed quite a following that way.
Amazing. Herschel, hello to you. I see you over there on IG. Kate 563 Music Group, hello to you as well. Well, Kirk, I was introduced to you through the book with Ridley Speaks, and we're going to talk about that. This series, though, and I think for people, if they're just discovering it, I think it would be great for them to see, of course, the journey of Ridley that we see in the book. But how did the series itself come to you?
On my third through hike on the Appalachian Trail. I'll try to make this short because that was a long hike, but I was hiking southbound. The trail had been relocated from my previous hike, hike 2, which had been 10 years earlier. And I wound up near a town in the south, which I have never named. I was close enough to it that I thought I'm going to hike into town and get some supplies. So I hiked into this town, and I was astonished at just the depravity there, and the lack of hope, and just everything was gray, and the way people spoke and interacted, I was stunned. I couldn't believe that we would have that kind of a society in the 21st century. And as I went on to finish that hike, I began to gel this novel in my mind, and that novel became Time Wall Speaks, which was supposed to be a standalone novel. I wanted it to be a kind of a social commentary. I called it a cross between Daniel Woodrell's Winter's Bone and Barbara Ehrenreich's Nickel and Dime. I finished that novel. I was proud of it, and then I moved on and did other books. And then it occurred to me there's a larger story here, and Ridley is the third book in the series. I just finished the fourth, and I've got one more to go.
Oh, wow. That's amazing. Mangram 2556, hello to you over there on IG. Dorita, hello to you. Good to be able to see you. Some of our watchers are joining us from Ohio. Glad you could be with us as well. What I think, there's so many layers to Ridley Speaks, and even the name that you chose to give this family for Speak, I mean, that says so much. What I found about Ridley that was really fascinating, and I'll talk around a lot of this, Kirk, for those who haven't read the book yet. Again, if you guys are on the Amazon side, you all can see, you can get the paperback here for $16.99, or you can get the Kindle edition for $6.99. We have it highlighted in the carousel, either here on the side or down below for you guys. For those joining us on the social media platforms, you'll see a link that will bring you over to Amazon. But what I love about Ridley is that you're able to kind of bring us into her world, so we can see not only the world through her eyes, Kirk, but also to be able to see the emotions that she has. And one thing that the two of you have in common is her being able to express herself in words. Did you know automatically that you wanted to give that gift to her of words and poetry, or was that something that evolved with her story?
I knew that I was going to do it. I didn't know exactly how I was going to do it. Every one of the books is written in a different voice.
Yeah.
And Ridley's is the only one in the first person.
Mm-hmm.
And I realized very early in the book that this gave me a unique ability to really be able to plumb into her emotions.
Right.
And it really evolved. I knew what I wanted the story to do. I wasn't sure how her voice would come out, but as many novelists will tell you, when you have a character-driven novel and that character starts to breathe, and that's what Ridley did, you kind of step into character the same way an actor will step into character. And I felt that, as I wrote Ridley. I wrote that book in 9 weeks.
Wow.
I couldn't stop. I mean, it just came absolutely alive. And so that's where it came from. It got very personal, very intimate, and I felt as if I was within her character, and I could just speak freely, and it worked. I'm very pleased with it.
Yeah. And I got exactly what you were expressing earlier, Kirk. Hello to you, Moses Maddox. I see you over there on IG. Glad you could join us as well. And I see you guys coming in over on the Amazon side too. If you guys have any questions for Kirk, put those in the chat. I'll be glad to be able to bring those up for you guys. But Kirk, I think the thing about Ridley Speaks that's so fascinating, you were mentioning earlier about the lack of hope about when you were visiting this particular place. And I thought it was so interesting to see Ridley, not of course trying to find her own way, but trying to find, just where she belongs. I think a lot of people can relate to that. Do you think that's part of the connection with the Speak saga that your readers are feeling?
I think you make a good point there. Ridley and the other characters in the other novels are in these circumstances, and they're getting themselves out. And one of the questions that I asked earlier in the saga was, if you're born into that, can you get out of it? How do you get out of it? And, each of the kids in this saga has a gift of their own. And Ridley's gift was her music ability, her lyrical ability, and the fact that she wouldn't let anyone, essentially take advantage of her. Yeah. And so that's all she's got. And, she goes out and she battles the world. But remember, when she starts out, she has a lot of school smarts and a lot of talent, but she has no experience. Yeah. So when she gets out in the world, that's what throws her.
It's so interesting to hear. You just made me think about something from the book. So I'll talk around this too, because you're exactly right. I think one of the things we're able to see is her realize not only what survival means, but also that her life is worth fighting for. Exactly. I think that's the part that really comes through. Did you find that you did put pieces of your own idea of resilience and fortitude inside of Ridley's story, Kirk?
To a degree. Who was it? P.D. James, who said that all fiction is biographical. And I don't necessarily buy into that, but how can you create something without putting a little of yourself in it? You have to have at least a perspective or a bias to start from. So there are certain aspects. Plus, I was raised in the South, and a lot of these themes are universal in my neck of the woods, as it were. And so I just incorporated that into her character.
Yeah. And I think the region, the Appalachia region, is something I was saying to Kirk before we went live here, that I've learned more in the past few years. I didn't realize how far that region spread, Kirk, until I was connected with the organization out of Kentucky, and they're recognizing the talent in the region. How much of the region became a character for you too, as you've been exploring it?
Well, it is the Appalachian Trail appears in every book. Every character winds up on it in some way, and it is it is a wide region, as you remark. We usually think of it as North Carolina and Tennessee, but it really stretches from lower Pennsylvania to upper Georgia, and then it goes into West Virginia and Kentucky, and it is a culture that was established by Irish and Scotch immigrants back in the 18th century, and a lot of their culture perseveres, although it's evolved, and that makes it somewhat unique in the American experience. And so it's a rich world to plumb for emotions and for dramatic settings.
And I think too, in many ways it's appropriate for this series, Kirk, because it shows that goodness can be found anywhere and everywhere, but also the desire for something better can be there too. I think a lot of times it's very easy for us to say that people in certain areas, that's the choice that they've made. I think Ridley's story in particular shows that some people are fighting to have more. What has that been like for you through fiction to be able to get people to take another look, not only at the region, Kirk, but also the idea of humanity and resilience?
Well, it's really, it's trying to describe it. I mean, there's a lot of dark undertones in these books, and
Sure.
obviously in Ridley, and it's not easy writing that. Let me tell you, it is not easy. A lot of people, writers might gloss that over, but I felt that I had to be blunt. I thought, this isn't going to come across unless I'm very blunt, but there might be lesser educated people there. There might be challenged people there because of the various social constraints, but that doesn't mean that they're bad people. They're just, I don't want to say victims, but they are the product of their upbringing in society. Sure. And Blaze, the mother, goes through some challenges in her book, which is what makes her so hard and rigid. And that has filtered down to all the kids who don't understand why this has happened. But she's not a bad person herself. She comes off that way, but she really isn't. Right. And that's what I'm trying to get across with these.
Yeah, love that. Hello to you, Related Extreme. Someone else joining us from Ohio. Hello to you. Real Talk with Tanya White. We're just talking about Kentucky. Tanya's joining us from Kentucky there. For those who are just coming in, welcome. You all are watching Cyrus Webb Presents or listening to Conversations Live. If you guys are joining us on the radio at Max WYAD 94.1 FM, WYADonline.com here in Mississippi. Our guest today is Kirk Ward Robinson. We're talking about his writing journey, but also his latest book that I had a chance to read called Ridley Speaks. Again, it's part of the Speaks saga. You mentioned earlier that you wrote the first book and you thought it was going to be a standalone, Kirk, in this, what now is this series. How much did the reader's interest, how much did that kind of nudge you to want to tell more of the story?
Well, there is. I have in the county I live in here in Tennessee. I jokingly say I have one fan, and she has read every book I've written, and she's a business owner in our county seat over here. And I was visiting her one day, and she said, "So how did Blaze get this way? Why was Blaze so mean and all of this?" And she got me thinking, and I began to ponder that on my own, and I realized there is a larger story here. So that was really the genesis of it. It was kind of her interest, and then I just kind of pondered that, and then came up with this whole saga.
Yeah, you mentioned, of course, the life that these characters live, and Ridley Speaks. You're right. There are some parts of the book I got to, and I was like, wow, this is pretty intense. And I think it goes to, which is why I referenced slightly earlier, Kirk, about her resilience, because it really becomes whether you're going to just allow life to happen to you, or are you going to fight for it? It's like we able to see, really realize that her life was worth fighting for. Right. And I think that is something that's such a great reminder for all of us, for sure. Do you hope, especially as people read these books, yes, it's fiction as we're talking about here, but they also think about that regardless of how difficult times may seem, how difficult things may appear, that they have something that is worth protecting.
Absolutely. And that's every one of these books deals with a social concern. Time Wall had his battle. Blaze had her battle with the foster care system. Ridley has her battle with human trafficking. Priscilla has her battles too. That'll be in a few months. That book will be out. Okay. But they're all resilient, and some of that resilience is just the stubbornness of the folks from that part of the country who have had not the best hand dealt since Revolutionary War times, but they keep coming back. If you think about Hurricane Helene that just went through, there are areas in this book that are not there anymore because of that hurricane.
Yeah.
And those people are in there. They're rebuilding. They're just doing what they have to do. And so that resilience is there. And the other aspect of these books are family memes that carry on to other generations, and we don't even realize it. So we all have them in all of our families. We've picked something up. We don't know where it came from. And so Ridley has got that. Time Wall had it. And Blaze, who was an orphan, came into these what became memes by accident, but now she's passed them on. Yeah. And some of them are that toughness, that resiliency, but also that emotional distance, which is what Ridley is fighting for, or fighting against, I should say.
Yeah, you just reminded me of something as you were talking just now, Kirk, and I think it's a great reminder too for us. Tanya says this is so interesting. Thank you. I'm sorry, that was Related Extreme says that. Thank you so much, Related Extreme. It really is a good book. Hello to you. I think it's pronounced. Is it Patty? I may be saying that wrong, but or is it Pat? Thank you so much for joining us over there on IG as well. But you reminded me of something, Kirk, as you were talking, and that is that even along the way, that Ridley realizes that she's not alone. I think it's Chris that shows interest in Ridley and is a compassionate individual, right? If I recall the scene correctly, Ridley has written about motorcycles. Chris mentions, of course, him having a motorcycle, and so there's that connection. And I love the idea of that you don't have to travel this world alone. That it may seem like everything is falling apart, but there are some good people out there. And I think it kind of goes to what the region that we're talking about too, as a reminder of that. What was that like for you to kind of bring people along into her life that kind of showed her that there is a different side to humanity?
Well, that was key to this book. See, all the children have been raised in that don't give out information, don't let people in because you'll be attacked. You've got to barricade yourself off. Yeah. And Chris and Willie Taylor and Mose on the bridge, these are all people who were able to break their way in and make her realize that you can be open to people. It's not a sign of weakness. And that's her journey. Yeah, I don't want to say too much because I don't want to give it up for you.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean, I just thought about that as you were talking. I'm like, wait a minute, I remember that scene, and I think too, being willing and knowing that there are good people out there. I think that definitely means a lot. Yeah. You already mentioned book 4 is coming. Do you recommend? Because I have to be honest with you, Kirk, this was my first book to read in the series. Should I now go back and see how it all began, or would you say that this book, if someone is just discovering the series, is this book okay for them to start with?
They can start with it. I will say that I have purposely written every book to stand alone as a standalone novel. So I've put background information there. You read in the prelude, you learned about Blaze and Jocelyn, and so you know what's going on. But I will say this: there are little clues in each of the books that if you start at the beginning, you'll know why that's there. If you haven't read the earlier books, then you'll read a passage and you'll move on. Okay. But if you've read the previous books, you'll go, oh, you see. So there's quite a bit of that throughout.
Gotcha. Well, you've convinced me. I'm going to go back. But for our audience out there who've been intrigued by Ridley Speaks, now is your time to be able to grab it. Again, here on Amazon, you can get, again, the paperback for $16.99 or the Kindle edition. I'm highlighting again for you guys on Amazon for $6.99. Ridley Speaks, which is the latest book in the Speaks saga that you can be able to get. You can also be able to get Kirk's other books too, and he's made it easy for you guys through his website. Kirk, let our audience know your website, how they can stay connected with you.
Yeah, it's kirkwardrobinson.com. Everything is there, but I also have an Amazon page and I've got a Goodreads page, and all the books are up there. There's quite a few of them now. I've kind of lost count, but
there you go. And of course, you guys know, you can be able to find them here on Amazon as well. Kirk, this was a great conversation. Thank you so much for stopping by. Looking forward to having you back on the broadcast again.
Thank you for having me.
Glad to do it. And we thank your audience for tuning in to another great segment of Cyrus Webb Presents and Conversations Live. Hello to you, Landon. Good to see you over there on YouTube. Glad you could be able to join us. And for all of you guys, if you came in late, don't worry. You guys can catch the replay on whatever platform you're joining us on, either here on Amazon or on Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, X, and on Instagram. You'll be able to find the replay there. Until next time, you all make it a great one. We'll talk to you soon. Take care.